I am a woman, which means I get to play in one of the best events at the World Series of Poker Europe, the Ladies Championship. This is the first time they are running this event as a replica to the Ladies Championship in Vegas, and that means all the best women are here to compete for the coveted WSOP Bracelet, including back-to-back Ladies Champion Sheena Okamoto, main event finalist Leo Margetts, and legendary main event winner Annette Obrestad. Can I beat them? Let's see.
Good morning, guys. Today is the ladies event and I'm super excited because I played the ladies event in Vegas last year. It was the first time I sort of played any massive tournament and it was my first time playing at WSOP. But I made day two with only like 8 big blinds and it did not go very well. So I'm hoping this time I'm less nervous because I've had more experience playing poker and playing tournaments. And yeah, hopefully we can run up a big stack and make day two. It's a bit different to the main event. There's 30-minute levels and we play down to 15% today. So yeah, it could be a late one. But yeah, 1K entry and hopefully we can win a bracelet. Fingers crossed. Right, see you there. I've just registered for the ladies event. Let's see where we're sat. We're in C8, which might be good for filming, not sure yet. Table 147 and C8. Hopefully we don't have too many crashes on my table. I met Annette, the WSOP winner from like 20 years ago. She was so nice. And she's also playing the ladies, so maybe I'll be on her table. But yeah, let's go take our seats and get on with the game.
Good luck, everyone. Either shuffle like that deal.
The blinds are 100-200, and we look down at ace-10 offsuit in the big blind. The cutoff opens to 500, and when it folds to me, I decide to defend. The flop comes 8-6-6, 2 clubs and a spade. I think this board is semi-dry. It's going to miss both of our ranges a lot of the time. So when I check to her and she bets 300, I decide to float. The turn comes the 8 of spades, which I think is a great card as it's much less likely that she now has top pair. And as the board is double paired, I think ace high is going to be good a lot of the time. It's even possible that she's being counterfeit with pocket fives and below. When I check, she checks back, and I think that generally female players like to fast play their good hands. So when she checks back, it feels like she's giving up or she's also trying to get to showdown with ace high. The river comes the 2 of spades, and I don't really think we can bet and get called by worse, so I check. But in my mind, I'm pretty much going to call any bet she throws out. She bets out for 1.1k, which is just about half pot. And as I said, I don't think I'm ever going to fold as we do chop a lot of the time when we have ace high. I call, and to my surprise, she just mucks her cards. So we win without even having to show, and this is a great start to our race for a bracelet. The blind levels in this tournament are only 30 minutes, and we don't pick up a hand for the rest of this level, and now the blinds are up to 200-300. We are now in the button and look down at ace-jack offsuit. The hijack opens to 700, and I decide to make the call. The big blind decides to defend, and we go 3 ways to a flop, which comes jack 8-7 rainbow. We just hit top pair, which is great, but the board is semi-connected, so we have to be careful about that. When the big blind checks, the hijack continues their aggression and bets 1.5k. Of course, with top pair, top kicker, I am never folding, so I make the call and the big blind ends up folding. So we go heads up to a turn, which comes another 7. She now checks, as I guess she might be scared of the 7. And I think we can still go for value with our top pair, so I bet 2.5k. She makes the call and we go off to the river, which comes another 7. So we just hit essentially the best full house. Of course, she could have queens, kings and aces, but I think it's kind of unlikely the way that she's played. She then decides to donk bet for 5.5k, and I just think if she has a better hand than me, then take my chips. I, of course, make the call. When I call, she shows Jack 10 offsuit, and unfortunately, that means we chop. It's annoying as we had her beat until the river, but we'll get her next time. A few hands later, we pick up pocket threes in the low jack, and I decide to open it to 700. The cutoff and the big blind both call, so we go 3 ways to a flop, which comes Jack 6-4, 2 hearts and a club. Not the 3 I was looking for. The big blind checks, and I decide to check multi-way, and the cutoff also checks behind. The turn comes the 5 of hearts, which is an interesting card as we now have 4 line to a straight. Of course, we have the lower end of the straight, but we do also have the 3 of hearts for the straight flush draw. The big blind then bets 1.2k, and with this combo draw, I don't think we can fold. Maybe we could raise, but I decide to take the more passive line, which I need to work on, and I just decide to call. The cutoff also makes the call, so we're still 3 ways to a river, which comes the 10 of spades. It's sad to have bricked out, and when the big blind bets 6k, we unfortunately have to fold. The blinds are up again to 200-400, and we finally look down at a premium hand in under the gun 1, Ace Queen of Diamonds. I open to 800, and the button and big blind both make the call. The flop comes 9-8-4, 2 hearts and a diamond, so we've completely missed the board, but we do have the backdoor diamonds and 2 overcards. It checks to the button, who now bets 1.5k. The big blind folds, and I think with our overcards and the backdoor flush draw, we can at least see 1 more street, so I make the call. The turn comes the 7 of clubs, and I check it over to the button. She now bets 1.8k, and you're probably thinking, this is where I now fold. However, I decide to make the call. I can't really justify why I called. I just thought that I might have the best hand. Luckily, the river comes to save me as the dealer puts out the ace of spades. I check again, and she now bets 4.8k. It is a bit scary when someone barrels all 3 streets, but do you think I called ace queen on the turn to hit an ace and fold? I make the call and see the great news that we're up against ace 2 of hearts. See, I knew we had her beat all the way. 1 orbit later, we pick up ace queen again. This time, the under the gun player opens to 800, and we put in the 3 bet to 2.5k. It folds back round to the under the gun player, who decides to make the call, and we go heads up to a flop, which comes queen 4-2, 2 diamonds and a heart. When she checks, this is a really easy decision for me. Of course, I'm betting with top pair. I bet 2.5k, and she quickly makes the call. The turn comes the 6 of spades, which does bring in 5-3 for a straight, but she never has that given the pre-flop action. When she checks to me, we just have the best hand a lot of the time, so I'm not going to slow down. With 11k in the pot, I decide to bet 10k. She makes the call, and we go off to the river, which comes the Jack of Hearts. When I saw this card, I just had a pit in my stomach. For some reason, I just really thought that she might have Queen Jack, and now she would have 2 pair. Even worse, she now donks 4.5k, which to me just feels like a really milky size that 2 pair might go to get called by top pair. However, our hand is just still too strong to fold, so I just hold my breath and make the call. When I call, she shows King Queen. We beat her with Ace Queen for one of the biggest pots of the tournament so far.
So we're on break for the ladies event, first break of the day. Starting set was 40k, I'm on 59.2. So yeah, a couple of those good hands. I don't know with Ace Queen, when she donks very small on the river, I just thought she had Queen Jack. So, I mean, I'm never folding Ace Queen then, but I don't know, maybe I can raise. I don't know if she's really ripping Queen Jack when she does that, but don't know. But yeah, I've got 20 minutes now, and then we'll be back for the next few levels, which we love.
We come back from the break, and the blinds are now 300-600, and I look down at Ace Queen again in the small blind. The under the gun player opens to 1.2k, and then it folds around to the cutoff, who puts in the 3 bet to 1.8k, which is the minimum raise. This is really confusing, as this player is definitely a competent player, so I don't think she is doing this on purpose, but still, it really throws me off on what I should do next. The button ends up making the call, and now the action's on me. When I first saw the under the gun open, I was already thinking about putting in the 3-bet, but when the cutoff min clicks it to 1.8, I now have no idea what I should do. Looking back, I really think this is a 4-bet or fold situation, and considering we have ace queen off, I'm definitely leaning towards fold. However, at the time, I really thought that, okay, how can I fold for this small size? And I do think the under the gun player is going to be under 4-betting, so it makes it more appealing to call. I decide to make the call, and then it folds to the under the gun player, who looks like she's in a tricky spot. The look on her face makes me think that she doesn't have an ultra strong hand, and actually if the cutoff had raised to a normal size, then probably she would have folded. But I think that given the small raise, she convinced herself into a call. So we go 4 ways to a flop, which comes ace 4-2. So we do hit top pair. It checks around to the cutoff, who puts in a bet of 2.8k. The button folds, and with top pair, I just make the call, but maybe there is an argument to raise. The under the gun player also makes the call, and we go 3 ways to a turn, which comes a jack. When I saw the jack, there was a little voice in my head that said, the under the gun player has ace jack. I think her reaction pre-flop just screams a middling hand like ace jack. So now I'm not feeling too confident with my ace queen. However, she checks to the cutoff, and the cutoff puts in another bet of 4k. Obviously, my ace jack theory is just a small hunch, and I don't think that I can fold to this 4k bet size, so I just make the call. The under the gun player then puts in the raise to 10k, and at that moment I'm pretty certain that she has ace jack. The cutoff ends up calling the raise, and this is obviously a pretty easy fold. The river ends up coming a jack, and the under the gun puts a large bet in on the river and ends up getting called by the cutoff. And at showdown, under the gun shows ace jack. The cutoff ends up losing a huge chunk of her stack, and I'm pretty sure she's going to be all in soon. The very next hand, we look down at ace king in the button. It folds around to the hijack, who had just lost the massive pot in the previous hand, and she raises to 1.5k. When it folds to me, I'm putting in the 3-bet and I make it 5k. It folds around to the hijack, and I'm not really expecting her to call. I expect her to either go all in or fold. And of course, she decides to go all in. I snap call, and we're playing the first all in of this ladies event. And we see that we're up against ace king. Quite anticlimactic. Hopefully we don't get sucked out on. The flop comes jack jack 6 with 2 diamonds, which gives a small diamond sweat, but the king of clubs on the turn secures the chop. The hijack lives to see another day, and we just chop up the blinds. The blinds are up again to 400, 800, and I look down at jack 10 suited in the small blind. The under the gun player opens to 1.6, and the low jack makes the call. I think these suited connector hands play okay from the small blind, so I decide to make the call, and the big blind folds. So we go 3 ways to a flop, which comes king 9-7 rainbow. So we have a double gutter to the straight. I decide to check out of position, and the under the gun and low jack both check behind. The turn comes the 8 of hearts, so we hit the straight. And of course, I want to build this pot, so I bet 2.5k. The under the gun player folds, but the low jack makes the call. We go heads up to a river, which comes the 4 of clubs. We have the nuts, so of course I'm going to size up, and I bet 11k. She really doesn't think for very long before she makes the call, and when I show jack 10, she shows pocket 5s. She even starts taking her chips back because she thought she won with a pair, and she didn't even see the straight. But good for me, we get paid off with our straight, and all the chips go into my stack. The blinds are moving so fast in this tournament, and we don't pick up a playable hand until the 600-1200 blind level. That's when we look down at Queen Jack suited in the button. The cutoff raises to 2.5k, and in the later positions, I think Queen Jack suited is a really strong hand, so I put in the 3-bet to 8k. It folds back round to the cutoff, and she decides to make the call. We go heads up to a flop, which comes 10-10-8 rainbow. She checks to me, and I decide to put out a bet of 6k. That's when she puts in the raise to 16,000. This is not very comfortable for me. Of course, she could have a 10 here, but I do have a straight draw, and I also have a backdoor flush draw. I feel like we just have enough equity to see the turn, so I make the call. The turn comes the 5 of hearts, giving me the flush draw. But that's when she goes all in. Oh my god, this sucks. I have a straight draw and a flush draw, which feels like loads of equity. These are the spots which will make or break a tournament. If I hit my flush or straight, then I will have doubled my stack and I'll be in a really, really strong place. But if we don't, then I'm out. This is really, really tricky because of course I want to build a massive stack, and I feel like sometimes you have to take a risk to get there. After a few minutes tanking, I decide to make the call, and we see that we're up against pocket jacks. This is probably the best scenario. We don't even need to hit a flush or a straight. We can now hit a queen and win. It feels like we have so many outs, and I'm just crossing my fingers hoping to hit one on the river. Come on, dealer, please, one time. The river. Comes the king of clubs, and we're out.
Ugh, that is painful. I don't know, maybe I should have folded, but I thought I had enough outs with the straight and the flush, like if they did have a 10. And the fact that they had jacks is like even more crazy. I had even more outs. I could have hit a queen. Queen, 9, any heart. Yeah. Gross. Gross. I'm not sure if I'm going to rebuy. Like, I feel like was playing well. So it sucks for it to just end like that. Tournament poker. It's very painful. This is why I stick to cash. At least you can walk away when you're up. But yeah, maybe we'll be going in again. Let's see. If so, then segue to that now, Leah.
We are back in the tournament and the blinds are now 1k, 1.5k. So we have 26 big blinds and a dream. And it's not long before we look down at King Queen offsuit in the low jack. I open to 3k and the cutoff makes the call. It then folds to the big blind, who puts in a raise to 8,000. I think this is a very small raise, considering she is out of position and there is 2 people already in the pot. Usually, King Queen offsuit would be a snap fold. However, I feel like when people pick the wrong sizes, then I just have to continue because the price is just too good. I decide to make the call and the cutoff also calls. So we go 3 ways to a flop, which comes Queen 7-4 rainbow. So we just hit top pair. However, the big blind doesn't slow down and she continues her aggression for 8k. Of course, with top pair, we are not folding, so I make the call. The cutoff makes the fold, and we go heads up to a turn, which comes the king of diamonds. We now have top 2 pair, and I'm just hoping she has something strong so we can get it all in. And my prayers are answered as she puts me all in. I snap call, and we see we're up against aces. We just have to fade an ace, 7 or 4, and we will have doubled our stack. The river is safe, and we get a massive double up. And we're pretty much back to where we were when we busted. A couple of orbits later, the blinds are now up to 1k, 2k, and we look down at pocket 2s in the cutoff. It folds to me, and I open to 4k. The small blind decides to make the call, and then the big blind goes all in for 18k. which is the equivalent of 9 big blinds. This is a bit of a weird decision for me, because if we were heads up, this would be a really easy call for 9 big blinds. But knowing there is still someone to act behind, I'm a bit unsure about what I should do. Pocket twos just feels too weak to put in another raise, but I also really don't want to fold. I feel like the small blind must not have something super strong, as they would have raised initially, so it might be safe to just call. I talk myself into a call, and the small blind also calls. So we go 3 ways to a flop, which comes 10-8-2. We just flopped a set. If I'm honest, I just got a bit trigger happy, and I decided to go all in. Obviously, this is quite silly. I should have definitely bet smaller to not scare her off. The small blind makes the fold, and we see that we're up against aces. This is 2 hands in a row now that we have a chance of cracking aces. We watch as the run out comes clean, and we get another big boost to our stack. We have been running super hot at the start of this second bullet, and fingers crossed that continues. A couple of orbits later, we pick up pocket sixes under the gun. I open to 5k, and it folds around to the big blind, who makes the call. The flop comes Queen 9-7 rainbow, which is a decent flop for our range, as we have a lot of strong Queen X. When the big blind checks, I put in a c-bet of 5k. She now makes the call, which does get me sort of suspicious that she could have a Queen 7 or 9. However, the board is obviously connected, and I think there are a bunch of straight draws that she could also have. The turn comes the Queen of Diamonds, which I'm not super happy to see. She could obviously have a queen, but the queen also makes it less likely that I have a queen, so she might get more sticky with a 9 or a 7. When she checks... Sorry, post-editing Leah here. When I filmed this, I accidentally got the turn action completely wrong, so now I'm just going to voice over. So I thought that she'd actually checked on the turn, but actually she donked for 7k, which at the time I thought was really suspicious, as I'm the pre-flop aggressor and I c-bet the flop, so I have all the strong Queen X. So for her to now donk into me, something just didn't seem right. So I decided to make the call, and then we go off to a river. The river now comes the 7 of clubs, counterfeiting our pair. So now we have absolutely 0 showdown value. But interestingly, she now checks. I really don't think that she's checking with a queen or a 7, so she must have a middling hand which wants to get to showdown. As I'm quite literally playing the board, I think we just have to bluff here, and hopefully we can get her off a middling hand. I decide to throw out a bet of 25k, and this sends her deep into the tank. My heart is beating so fast, and in my head I'm just praying for the fold. But the more time that goes by, I feel like she's just convincing herself into a call. And unlucky for me, after a few minutes, she decides to throw in the chips. I show pocket sixes, and she shows 9-5 offsuit for a pair of 9s. This one really hurt because I felt like I put in a good bluff, but I'm glad that I at least had the confidence to try the bluff, and it's good that we still have a decent number of chips in our stack.
So we fired again. I'm not doing too bad. I mean, there's a couple of hands that we had where we doubled and then tried that bluff with sixes, but it didn't work. I don't know, maybe if I jammed, then she would have folded. She was tanking for a long time. But oh well, can't look back and ponder, must go onwards. Late reg is over now. There is, well, some people are still regging, 70 players left, playing down to 15%. So we'll see once we get down there. We have 83.5k in my stack, and that'll be good for 27, 8, 9 big blinds, something like that. But there are some people with some massive stacks, so it's a bit intimidating, but we'll see. Anyways, let's go back down to play the ladies' event.
We're back from the break, and late reg is now over, and the blinds are 1.53k. I am one of the shorter stacks, and even worse, Super Pro Kitty sits down on my left and turns her 40k stack into like 200k in the first few hands. So now I'm sandwiched between two huge stacks, but I still need to battle for some chips. So when I look down at ace 10 in the hijack, I open to 6k. The button is the only caller, and we go heads up to a flop which comes ace 8-5. It's always a relief to hit top pair. When I'm out of position, I think it makes the most sense to just check, and the button ends up checking behind. The turn comes the queen of clubs, and now I'm happy to start putting some chips in the middle. I bet 6k, and she pretty quickly makes the call. The river is the 7 of clubs, which is a semi-clean card. Of course, 9-6 gets there for a straight, but I still think an ace can still bet for value on the river. I decide to bet 15k, and she pretty quickly makes the call. And when I show ace 10, she mucks and we win the pot. We are still sitting pretty short stacked, and the blinds are up again to 2k, 4k. So I'm hoping that we can get a double up soon. I'm in the cutoff and I look down at jack 9 suited. The hijack opens to 9k. Usually I would fold a hand like jack 9, but the more tournament study that I've been doing, it seems criminal to fold these suited connected hands. So I decide to make the call. The small blind and big blind both make the call, so we go 4 ways to a flop. The flop comes queen 7-4, 2 spades and a heart. So we've just flopped a flush draw. Surprisingly, there's no action on this flop as it checks around. The turn now comes the queen of diamonds, so not the flush I wanted to see. The small blind now bets 14,000, and it folds to the hijack who makes the call. I think it's worth calling to see if we can hit the flush. I do have a problem when it comes to chasing straights or flushes. I make the call, and the river comes the 6 of spades. So we just hit our flush. The small blind now slows down and checks, but the hijack puts in a bet of 35k. I only have 47k in my stack, so she's pretty much committing me. And of course, I go all in. The small blind folds and it's back on the hijack. And I'm expecting her to pretty quickly make the call, as she only has to throw in 12k. However, she's not throwing any chips in. And I look over to her and sort of give her a smile, because I just think, how could you possibly fold for only 12k more? But it seems as though she was bluffing and she ends up actually folding. We pick up a massive pot, essentially doubling our stack. And this is super, super important, as every hand we play is bringing us closer to the bubble. As more people bust, our table breaks and we move again. I then look down at ace-jack suited in the small blind. The under the gun player open jams for just about less than my stack, and then it folds around to me. I feel like this is a pretty easy jam, so I decide to go all in. The big blind folds, and we see that we're up against ace 9 of hearts. We are in a great position to almost double our stack again. We just have to fade a 9 or hearts. The board runs out clean and we win a nice pot. And even better, someone busts, so now we're even closer to the money. I now have around 200k in my stack, which is good for about 25 big blinds. And there's currently 38 players left and 30 make the money. That's when I look down at king queen suited on the button. The under the gun player opens to 18k and it folds around to me. Our hand is a pure 3-bet, so I put in the raise to 50k. It folds back round to the under the gun player who puts in the call, and we go heads up to a flop which comes king jack 3, 2 spades and a diamond. I'm pretty happy to have top pair, so when she checks to me, I bet out for 40k. She makes the call and we go off to the turn which comes the queen of diamonds. So we now have top 2 pair. However, this is making the board very connected, as ace 10 and 10-9 now make a straight. When she checks to me, I decide to check. I'm not really sure if I should be betting the turn. In my head, I thought if a clean river comes, then we can probably get it all in, and my hand will be quite disguised. However, the river comes the 2 of spades, bringing in the front door flush. And even worse, she goes all in. She has a massive stack, so she covers me. And if I call, I could be out of the tournament. And I honestly feel sick. I'm looking up at the board and I see that only 8 players have to bust before we make the money. It feels awful knowing that if we call and she has a flush, then we'll be out. But if we fold, then we still have enough in our stack that we can probably fold into the money. This is a really, really horrible decision to make, and I'm really trying to think about what I should do. And then I remember something I heard from a Jonathan Little video that I was watching a while ago, which says if you have enough in your stack to fold into the money, then that's probably what you should prioritize instead of trying to chip up your stack. Obviously, there was probably more nuance to what he was saying, but at the time, that was just resonating in my mind, as I think it was more important for me to fold and make it in the money than potentially make an awful call and be out of the tournament this close to the money. I ultimately decide to fold, and she ends up showing me the 7 of spades. So in my mind, she either has a 7 or pocket 7s for a bluff. Either way, I just have to stand by my decision and hope that it pays off and we make it into the money. There's 8 players left to bust, and I'm pretty much folding everything. There are a bunch of shorter stacks than mine, and I think that it would just be horrible to bust now, knowing that we can just fold into the money. As I'm watching the board and I see the number of players go down, I have never been more stressed in my life. This is one of the biggest tournaments that I've played, and I really, really, really want to make the money. Not only is it obviously good to win some money, but it would be a massive achievement for me to cash a tournament like this. So for me, the priority is to just get into the top 30. One by one, people start busting, and now we're only one person away from being in the money. I really wish I was filming, but when I tell you I was so stressed at this point in time, I just couldn't think about anything else apart from hoping that somebody would bust. But the last hand of the night did happen to be on my table, so at least I can reenact it for you. A big stack in the early position opens, and the button makes the call, and then the big blind, who's a short stack, ends up going all in. The person in early position ends up making the call, and the button ends up folding. The big blind, who's at risk, shows pocket queens, and the early position player shows ace-8 suited. In my head, I'm really hoping for queens to bust, but the flop comes out and there's no ace. However, there is a 7 and a 6, giving the possibility for the backdoor straight, and then a 4 comes on the turn, and a 5 on the river, bringing in the backdoor straight. It was really chaotic, and a lot of people didn't know if that person busting meant that we were in the money, but it did, and we could finally bag up our chips for day 2.
I made day 2, guys. I'm in the money. Honestly, I felt like I could cry. Which is crazy, it's ridiculous, but oh my god, the relief I felt. I wish I'd filmed it all in, but you know when you're just so like focused on, oh my god, I hope this person busts, which is rude, I know, but I was like, oh my god, praying, please, please, that I didn't film it. But there were so many people filming it, so maybe I can just grab a clip from somewhere else. But oh my god, that was insane. Yeah, it was queens against ace-8, and ace-8 went runner for a straight. And they didn't even see it at first. Like, the people were like, GG's for queens getting a double. And it was like, well, no, straight. And then, then we were in the money. And I was so happy that we bagged, like, as soon as we got the money. Because I think if we'd had to have bagged and come back and played and still have been the money, I think that would have been more difficult. I don't know. Just like when you're on a bit of momentum, yeah, you just want to keep going. But yeah, I played some good pots, I think. That hand with king queen was rough. Honestly, that was 8 away from the money, and I just thought she had a flush. It's just something that she would, I mean, she's very capable of bluffing. But I just didn't think it was worth it. I thought my stack was big enough that I could get to the money, and yeah, just with the ICM pressure, I thought it's probably a good fold. you know, 9 out of 10 times, but what, I'm sure maybe the soul will say different, I don't know. But yeah, super happy. In the ladies event, day 2 tomorrow, bagged 127,000 chips, which will be 10 big blinds going into tomorrow. There's some people with some huge stacks, like, yeah, final table levels stacks. And I'm like, I wish that was me. But I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful to be in the money. We've got 2k logged. I think it's like 210,000 euros. And yeah, I mean, the payouts are pretty, like, I don't know what you would call it. Like, horizontal. And then they jump for the final table, because there's only 30 of us left. So yeah, well, I'm going to sign off now. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like, subscribe. Well, I don't know if this will be over, actually. Depends how long day 2 lasts. But I'll say it anyways. Make sure to like, subscribe. Follow my socials, all of that jazz. And yeah, fingers crossed we can sun run tomorrow, double up our stack, double it, and then double it again. And then yeah, make it to the final table and get that bracelet, baby. We'll see. But thank you guys so much for watching. Yeah, maybe this will segue into day 2. Good morning, everyone. It is the day. It's day 2 of the ladies' event. I am nervous. I mean, last night we played down to 30 players, so we're already in the money, which is great. Got 2,010 euros locked up, which is good. Very, very happy about that. We're going in today 20 out of 30. So there's 9 stacks that are lower than ours. But I mean, the ICM pressure is very low because the first, like, the pay jump happens at 20 and it's only 100 euros. So it's like not that big of a deal until like the last 10, really. That's when the payouts start getting interesting. So I'd have to wait for 20 people to bust, which is going to be quite hard with only 10 big blinds going in. So we have to hope that we pick up some good hands. We can double up. We can double up again. And then, yeah, maybe have a deep run. I'm not sure, but we'll see. I just feel very happy that I've made the money. So even if I bust first, I think I'll be happy. And I don't think a lot of poker players can say that. Like, a lot of the time they're like, oh, I want to win, or like, obviously I want to win. But, oh, I want to win, or I want to make the final table, or nothing sort of thing. But, I mean, this is a big achievement for me. This is like one of the biggest tournaments I've played. And yeah, I'm just glad that I made the money. Out of 197 people, down to 30. So yeah, happy about that. Anyway, let's head down to the tournament area and get on with the hands. Fingers crossed, good luck to me. Let's do it.
We sit down for day 2 with about 10 big blinds in our stack. And I know that it's going to be all in or fold. Pretty early on, there's a couple of spots in which I find myself able to go all in, but unfortunately they end up folding. And all around me, I can just hear chaos from other tables as other people are busting. And pretty quickly, there's like 5 or 6 people that end up leaving in the first 15 minutes. Somehow we even managed to ladder up, but we're still sat with a really, really short stack. The blinds are now 8k, 16k, and I look down at King Jack offsuit in the big blind. The low jack opens to 32k, and when it folds to me, I'm not really sure if I should just go all in now or make the call. I ultimately decide that it would be better to see a flop and reevaluate instead of putting my whole stack on the line. So I decide to just make the call. So we go heads up to our flop, which comes Jack 8-4. So we just flop top pair. I already know that if she bets, all my chips are going in the middle. And when she throws out a bet of 25k, there's nothing left to do but just to go all in. She makes the call and we see that we're up against Jack 10. This is a great spot. We have her absolutely dominated. We just need to hold. The turn comes the 3 of hearts. So now there's 3 hearts on the board and she has a heart in her hand. She starts calling for a heart, and of course, the river comes the 7 of hearts. I am crushed. We had her absolutely dominated on the flop, and now she goes runner flush, and we're out. It really is one of the worst feelings to get so unlucky like this, especially because I think if I jammed pre-flop, then she would have folded. But still, we made the money and we did ladder, so it's not the worst outcome.
So we busted. Sad. But I'm still very happy, very grateful that I made it into the money. We came 18th out of 197 people, which, you know, I haven't been playing poker for that long. I definitely don't play tournaments, probably as regularly as some of these other people. So to make it in the money, it was a big achievement. And I got one ladder, €100. Don't put your nose up at that. But yeah, it was upsetting that obviously it was 80% favourite on the flop. And then runner flush. Yeah, is what it is. But you know what? I think that I could have a good future playing tournaments. I've pretty much focused on cash, like studying cash, playing cash. Like, I think I can count on my hands the number of times I've played a tournament in my life. So, you know, to be able to say, like, I've cashed in the Ladies Championship in Europe, I think it's quite good. I've doubled my Hender mob. That's nice. And I did say on my New Year's resolutions that I wanted to get some good cashes this year. So this is a good one for the books. I'm very happy about it. So yeah, sorry I couldn't win. Sorry I couldn't get a bracelet. But you know, this is not going to be the last time I play these events. And yeah, I'm looking forward to Vegas, maybe. We'll see. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope that you liked it. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow me on socials, all that jazz. And yeah, I'll see you for the next one. Peace out. Bye.